Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Matt here. Today doing a first of hopefully many videos in a new sort of format for this channel. If you follow the channel, you'll know that the way we used to film match footage is my wife Dory was the point person for doing a lot of the camera work, but now she is improving and doing really well in matches and focusing solely on her own performance. So it's a lot harder for me to get a lot of match footage to do a comprehensive match recap video. So I gave it some thought and I wanted to do more of a post-match stage analysis style video. And I think there's going to be a lot of benefits to this. First, it's going to allow me to really give more context and explanation of what's actually happening in a stage. I can more thoroughly go through my stage planning, the actual stage itself and how I approached it, the execution I used, and then talk about any sort of maybe tips that might help some shooters out there. And it's also going to just be good for, again, the context of the situation. You're not getting full information just watching the videos. For example, the scope camera is awesome, but it doesn't pick up a mirage as easily as you can see in person. And it also really constricts the field of view. What I actually see through the scope is much wider than what the scope camera captures. So there's a lot that you miss. You can't feel the wind that I'm feeling on my face. So I can explain all these things and give you a little bit better context. I think it's going to be a good way to share some information. I gave it some thought, and I think the way I'm going to structure these videos is first show the stage design, explain the stage, what we're actually doing, show any dope card that I prepare for it, if applicable, because I don't always have dope cards for my stages. But some of the interesting stages I've shot in the past year or so, I actually saved the dope cards from them because I've been planning to do stage analysis videos for a long time. And then we'll go through how I executed the stage, we'll watch how I shot the stage, and I'll just explain anything that comes to mind, anything that I want to talk about while I'm watching the footage back. I'll explain to you what was happening and why I chose to do certain things, obviously. And then lastly, I thought it'd be fun to end on sort of like a grading system, just using like school grading system, A, B, C, D, or F for my performance of the stage. Again, just so you can better understand how I felt about the stage in hindsight. That's basically what I want to do for these stage analysis videos. And for the first installment of this, I chose a stage here that I shot close to a year ago. This was back in May 2024 at East Glastonbury Fish and Game. This was a PRS regional qualifier. And this stage in particular, I always thought would be really fun to do a breakdown on. Hence, I kept the dope card for almost 12 months now. I just clipped it to the course of fire, and we're going to go through it. So here we go. This stage, it's pretty straightforward how you shoot it in terms of the design of the target sequence and everything. If I go forward in the video here, I posted the targets and target distance. You'll see here there's 2 positions and 5 targets. The 5 targets were simply shot with 1 shot left to right from the 2 positions. Pretty straightforward. However, you'll notice here from the second position, the same targets are at much different distances. And the reason for that is the first position was at this sort of rock platform. And then halfway through the stage, you actually moved forward to a second rock pile, 20 plus yards in front of the first one, and shot the same targets. So the distances changed significantly. You can see 20 something yards. And I think that's really interesting because you really had to kind of keep track of 2 sets of drop data, one for the first rock pile and one for the second rock pile. Really interesting because many venues aren't able to do this. You can't move in front of the firing line safely. But the way East Glastonbury Fish and Game is set up, all the stages are throughout like this area of woods, and you have to sort of hike between stage to stage. So you can have these separated areas where you can move like this totally safe, not moving in front of a fire line. So I thought that was really interesting. You'll see here if I play the video and skip forward a little bit, once I'm done shooting the 5 targets on the first position here, I do a little run up to this second rock pile, again 20 plus yards away, and shoot the same 5 targets. And I thought that was just really fun. Only the shooter and the RO were allowed to go past the position 1 during the stage for safety reasons. So that's why Dory just had to zoom in. All right, now looking at the targets themselves, you'll see the 5 targets were a gopher silhouette, and then there was a spinner. The qualifier did specify you needed to shoot the bottom target on the spinner first, and then the top target. So you couldn't just double tap the bottom target. It did have to be bottom and then top. And after the spinner, you would engage 2 more rectangles to the right. So it was left to right. If I go back here on the stage, you can see there's sort of this ridge, and on this ridge is where all the targets were located. So you did have to have pretty good target acquisition as well, especially when you're shooting woods matches. I find target acquisition is really important and a little bit difficult in all the trees and stuff. Now, with the different target distances and everything, obviously you need to decide if you want to dial or hold over. And I decided to hold over. And the reason for that is because I believe I was maybe the 4th or 5th shooter in my squad to shoot this stage. And I remember most people, if not everyone before me, timed out. So I knew time management was going to be critical if I didn't want to forfeit any shots by timing out. So I decided to hold over because some people were dialing and struggling with time management. And that's what we did. So I took a picture of this dope cart that I've been saving for a while, and we can view it here. So this is what I wrote up. It got a little bit wet, so it's a little messed up, but you can see generally what my thought process was. And as we do more of these videos, you'll also maybe realize that I don't have a very consistent way of writing up dope cards. Probably not a good thing, but I generally just write out what makes the most sense to me at the time and what I think will be easy to read and effective on the clock. So for this stage, I have it broken down with the top row being my data for the position 1, and then the second row being the data for position 2. And again, I decided to hold over, and I decided to dial for the spinner target, denoted by this is a Z for 0. I write it really obvious like that instead of a 0 in case I think it's like a 6 or something because my handwriting is terrible. And another reason I decided to do this is because if you look at the targets here, the gopher and the rectangles are all fairly forgiving in the vertical dimension. The spinner target was a fairly small circle, and you're dealing with the movement of the spinner because as soon as you impact the bottom target of the spinner, the entire spinner is moving. So when you go to engage the top one, I didn't want to have to apply a holdover and deal with the spinner movement. So I decided to dial for that target. What's a little bit unique in this case is the spinner target from both positions is the furthest target, which means instead of holding over, I'm actually holding under. So in my reticle, you'll see afterwards with the scope camera, I'm holding above the center line of my reticle, which is something I very rarely do. Again, I do implement hold unders occasionally when I think it's really beneficial for the stage, but it's not something I do very often, which again made this stage a little bit unique. So going through the top position 1 data, my dial was 2.6 mils, which is again for 113 yards for the spinner. And then I would hold -1 mils for the squirrel, -1.2 mils, and -1 mil for the rectangles. Same thing on position 2, again, because you're moving closer to the target. I dialed down to 1.3 mils for the spinner, and then I'm holding -8/10, 9/10, and 5/10 for the other targets. So I'll move my dope card to the top corner here so you can reference it as I shoot this stage, and I'll roll in the match footage with the timer and my scope camera, which is right here. So I'm getting ready, and again, I had seen many people time out, so I wanted to be quick in getting a solid position and making sure I was focusing on good target acquisition, which I think I did pretty well on the stage. You'll see here, acquired target, and I'm going to pause it quickly here because as you see, my first hold under is 1 mil, and 1 mil is right here on the top of my cursor. So I was maybe holding a tad high on the target because I was aiming for the meaty section of the target. But as you'll see, it's a solid impact, and this is where I go to the spinner. Again, it's bottom and then the top. And you'll see here, bottom target, I shoot that, pretty straightforward because it's stationary, cycle my bolt quickly, and then time the top target. Now, I did want to break down the spinner specifically because there's a few things to take into consideration. We'll watch it again, the entire engagement. So shoot the bottom, it's moving, cycle my bolt quickly, and right before it changes directions, I hit the top one. Now, there was some planning involved in this because I'm going to use this highlighter as demonstration. You shoot the bottom, obviously starts moving. You let it swing once, and as it's swinging, you're cycling your bolt quickly and preparing for the next shot as fast as you can. And right when it stops and it's about to change directions again, you're going to pull the shot and hit the top target. Obviously, this is because it's decelerating as it's right about to stop. It stops for a brief second and then it starts moving back towards you. So that's when you want to break the shot, is right when it's about to change directions. And I wanted to do this quick, which I was able to do because some people were shooting the bottom target, swinging once, swinging twice, and because maybe they were a little bit slow in their bolt or they wanted to settle in a bit, they let it swing one more time before shooting it here on sort of the backswing. And that did eat up some time. That maybe 2 or 3 seconds more they had to wait to shoot this target again. And you had to do this twice in the stage. So that's an easy 6 seconds you could lose if you're waiting for it to swing forward one more time. Additionally, if you're looking at the spinner like this, if the spinner is facing you and it's rotating on its axis perfectly in line with you, it's easier to engage because the targets you're aiming at are really only varying in height slightly. But as you see on the footage, it was actually angled like this and moving sort of sideways in an arc, which makes it a little bit more difficult, and it makes timing the follow-up shot on the moving top target a lot more critical because you need to shoot it when it's basically stationary. So we'll watch that one more time quickly. Again, I'll shoot the bottom one and then you'll see it moving side to side because it's not facing you exactly. So again, cycle my bolt quick. Right before when it stops, I pull the shot off and it was well timed. Again, the rectangles are fairly forgiving in the holdovers because they're so tall. So if I was in the ballpark, somewhere in the middle, I pulled the shot. Again, the last rectangle here is 1 mil hold under. You can see that was pretty centered. Now I'm running up to position 2. And you'll see when I get into position, I'm going to dial my turret down right here. I'm dialing my turret to 1.3 mils. And I'm going to apply a -8/10 holdover on the first target here on this squirrel. Again, pretty easy hit. And same sort of engagement on the spinner. Wait for it to swing. Right before it stops, pull my shot. Perfect. Now here, you'll see something interesting. I get in position, I close my bolt, and then I open it to move. The reason for that is because I had a clear line of sight to the target with my scope, but my barrel was really, really close to a rock that was sort of jutting out in front of me. And we were worried I was going to strike that rock with my round. So instead of taking a chance, I simply opened my bolt and moved to this top position here. So I had an unobstructed line to the target. And again, these targets were pretty big for these distances and my holdovers were right in there, so I sent them. And you can see I ended with maybe 11 or 12 seconds left on the clock. So if I had waited for that spinner, again, one more, I guess, cycle before shooting it, that could have easily eaten up maybe 6 to 8 seconds because you're doing it twice. And if anything else had gone wrong, I could have timed out. So again, time management on the stage was absolutely critical, but I had a lot of fun shooting it. I managed to clean it, which is always a nice thing. And walking back here, I think you can see me smiling because I was happy with that. All right, so I guess my grading, time to grade my performance on the stage. All in all, I think I did pretty well. I really took the time to prepare for the stage carefully, and I was really happy with how I engaged the targets. I think the spinner engagement was as perfect as it could be. I really didn't waste any time. So because of that, I'm going to give myself an A, which I wasn't going to start with an F video. trust me, there'll be some D's and F stage reviews later on because not all my stages are pretty. But this one I think was a solid A. Couldn't have done it much better. And I was happy with how that happened. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this style of stage analysis. I plan to do more in the near future as well. I have a lot of other stages, actually some from this same match as well, and definitely some from other matches we filmed even this spring. I had a pretty good match at MKM, which I never made a video for, but I do have stage footage I want to sort of do an analysis on. So let me know how you liked this type of video. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.